love you lots. The angels above you watch. I'm working around the clock, cause the time is now. Seeking what I'm finding now. Speaking gems and diamonds now. I used to dream it, but I seem to live inside it now. I find peace inside my silence now. And let the quiet bring me solace now. Lately I've been shining like the golden child. Brolic with a lot of styles. Father time, out of shrine, out of sight, out of mind. I was a peasant, but I'm dwelling in a palace now. Became a master, but I started out in Pallet Town. You keepin' counting, I suggest you never count us out. This type of passion make that we the best callous sound. Load the clip and let that barrel make the shot of sound. And when we aim it at your core, it's like a side of sound. So let my people free and let the evil bleed. We leave them leaking so the evil in the people leave. I seen them on their knees praying like they need a dream. Fantasize, see the scenes, everybody need a dream. Sun is rising in the east, pray to it, say to it that you walk the divine path and plan to stay to it. Woo! That's it. We rapping it. Peace to Magz FM. Glad. Alright, so it's Yoshisuhn, you know what I mean? The only one, the one and only. First off, I'd like to give a big shout out and thank you to the folks over at Magz FM for reaching out. It's super dope for people to listen to the work, appreciate it, share it, play it, etc. And it makes that process of creation well worth it, you know what I mean, from start to finish, to know that it is being received well. But that said, I'll get into the dialogue about the questions. I was on the phone with my mother, and I was having a conversation with her, and we haven't always had like the best relationship, you know what I mean? So as a grown person now, I'm like getting a little bit older. I wouldn't say older. I'm getting more mature. I'll say that. So I'm talking to her on the phone, and the conversation didn't go too well. It wasn't the nicest process of things, right? So I'm talking to her, and essentially we ended up getting off of the phone, and I'm left with a lot of not necessarily angst, but kind of just like a process of just like, man, I wish this was going better. Like, and I just was thinking about my mother, and just like on the note of like, I hope she knows I love her. So that's like the opening line is, I love you lots. The angels above you watch. I'm working around the clock because the time is now. Speaking on kind of like an urgency to bring those things, as I said before, into fruition. You know what I mean? It's like, it's now or never. The entire track itself is more or less like okay, my past reality is not necessarily relevant. It is in the sense of like, those are lessons for me to learn from, but now is the point where all the things that I want to bring those things to me, you know what I mean, by any reasonable means. So that's that. A lot of my songs don't necessarily have a like a central point that they're reaching to. It's like an amalgamation of things. So one of my favorite directors in film is Charles Kaufman. It's the guy who, I think he only wrote what is it, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. He like directs a lot of these crazy films, but they won't have like necessarily one theme that they're like, it kind of does have like an overarching theme, but more or less it's a little bit all over the place, but it's focused. So all of the subject matter like coincides in some way or like overlaps. So a lot of it is just me being in thought. I might listen to some other music that like inspires me. I might be reading something that like leaves me with the thought that like stays, and that becomes like a running theme. So a lot of it is just I would say just like a stream of consciousness, if you will. There's never necessarily a contrived process that I go through to come up with a lot of stuff. I've always been into music. It's always been I think, as I'll say quote unquote humans, because I don't know if I necessarily identify with the title of being a human, but as people in this world, there are points where things get heavy and we need a way to find some sort of escapism. So whether it's you get really enveloped in film, whether you're big on reading, whatever it may be, whatever your hobby is, or like your thing that you use to escape or go away from this world and get into that imaginative space. Music has always been the thing that I was able to lean on when everything else seemed really shaky. It's always like it speaks volumes because of the fact that like there can even be stuff that I listen to that's not in my native tongue or language, and I listen to it, and because of the feeling that's there, it translates on such a heavier level. So that being the thing that it's a constant. It says everything that needs to be said, even if there aren't words to it. You know what I mean? So I think that was what kind of inspired me to always like gravitate to it. But as far as like the beginning of my lineage, as far as like creating music, when I was about 17, which is a while ago, when I was 17, I was super depressed and just in a space of just, it wasn't a good time. It wasn't a good time. I was like overly self-medicating, a bunch of stuff that wasn't necessarily positive, but I ended up buying some equipment. I bought like a simple mixer console, like a little Porta Studio Tascam. At the time, it might have been like a 16-track, little microphone stand, like basic shit. And me and homies would we smoke a bunch of blunts and record songs in the closet. And it was like, I would just sit there and mix those very terribly. I wasn't up on engineering, but I would mix those. And it was really just stuff to listen to amongst ourselves. And over time, I started getting better just through the repetition of doing it. I've always been a good writer. As a kid, I did like poetry and stuff like that, but I've always been a good writer. But yeah, it just became a thing that it was a release. So as far as any of the angst that might be building up, things of that nature, it was just a way to channel all that stuff into something that was outside of me and like leave it on the page, on the track, whatever. So that's how it started. And then gradually I started to peep, okay, I'm getting better at this. Like I'm actually really good at this now. So like, let me take it seriously and see what can come of it. And it's been a cool journey. Born in Philadelphia, moved around a lot, moved back here when I was maybe 22, 23. And it's been a while. It's been a handful of years. So I've been back here and just kicking it, and that's where I'm from. That's where I'm based presently. The community here is crazy because it's interesting, right? So the community here is like, of all the places I've been, of all the places that I've listened to their art or seen their art, etc. Philly is, and people can debate this, but Philly is the most dense pool of talent that you will find anywhere. Like people being extremely proficient and ridiculous at the things that they do on a level that I don't see anywhere else. There isn't really as much of a sense of community as I would like there to be. It's a very big, and a lot of people agree with this. Some people will disagree, but like I feel like it's valid. It's a big like crabs in a barrel type scenario. You know what I mean? A lot of people vying and competing for some sort of prestige. I wouldn't change it though. I would definitely change that aspect, but as far as like the talent level here and just how inspiring it is to be in this environment in terms of who you'll meet just in passing or whatever, like I would never change that. But damn, what was I gonna say lastly? I'm spaced on it. If it's important, it'll come back. But yeah, that's about the size of it. Yeah, shouts out Magz FM. Shouts out all the people listening, supporting, etc. I appreciate you. I'll be around. I got some work to do right now. I'm about to hop back into it. But peace, much love.